So, hello and welcome to a special edition of True Colored Crime. I'm your host, Dr. Lisa Fox, and I'm here with Dr. Maggie Sharp, and Sherri Christopher is going to be joining us in a little bit. So, Dr. Sharp was the veterinarian on call in the ER the night that Chance, the Christmas dog, from our Christmas special podcast was brought in. And Sherri is the director of Guardians for the Green Mile, which is the nonprofit organization in Northwest Indiana that made Chance's surgeries and recoveries possible through donations. So I'm going to let Dr. Sharp kind of introduce herself, and then we'll get to some questions. So, Dr. Sharp?
Yeah, hi, I'm Dr. Sharp. I graduated from Purdue University. I know you're a vet too. And so at the time I was working at a Purdue affiliated hospital.
Okay. All right. So what are you kind of doing now? Are you still in ER or?
Yeah, I got out of ER about 2 years ago now. I do it every once in a while, relief. But I just actually opened my own hospital. So
Well,
I'm
congratulations.
thanks. I'm in the process of going through all that.
Good. Yep. I know exactly how you feel. So
Yep. Yep.
I opened my own up in 2018. So
Nice,
yep.
nice.
Yeah. So
Yeah, we should talk about it.
oh, yeah, definitely. So how did Chance kind of come into your life? Can you tell us a little bit about that night?
Yeah, so well, it was Christmas Eve. I was one of the doctors that was on, I think during the day. It's been so long, it's hard to know if it was day or night. But he came in around in the evening, towards the end of my shift. And so he came in, it was a stat call. It was a puppy, so with his mouth taped shut. And so they brought him right to the back. Um, he had the tape kind of wrapped around his mouth several times. The part kind of rostral to that was pretty swollen, and he was struggling to breathe. I think that it just the excitement and the nervousness and then the pressure kind of not allowing him to be able to pant or easily breathe. He started to kind of get a little overexcited and go into respiratory distress. Um, Go
For
ahead.
our listeners, rostral just means ahead of the tape. So pretty much from the tape forward to the nose or the muzzle area is what we would call it,
Yeah.
is the rostral term.
Yep.
Yep.
Sorry, I
No,
I
you're good.
assumed that it's a a veterinary thing. And so, originally I had wanted to look at the tape and make sure that I could remove it without more tissue coming off. But then with the respiratory distress, we kind of just cut it and said he's got to breathe, and then we'll figure it out.
Right.
Um, Once we kind of were able to do his full physical exam, it became clear that even though it was taped shut, there was still blood circulation now that we had let it up. And so there was a chance that he was going to get to, keep everything up there and not have it kind of fall apart or die over time.
Okay.
It was evident that he had broken legs. He wasn't able to really move his back legs the way that you would think, and you could kind of feel um, clicking or like a weird rubbing. They just weren't moving the way that they were supposed to.
Okay.
And so I went into the room, and it was some good Samaritans that had found him in their backyard, basically.
Yep.
And they didn't have a whole lot of money, but they wanted to do what was right. And so I said, you know what, let's just give him a chance, which is how I got the name Chance.
Okay.
Well, yeah. Well, we're trying to do what's right by him, and we'll figure out cost and all that other stuff later. I don't want to have to put him down just because we don't have the money right here, right now. And then that's how Sherri got involved. She was a friend of a friend who worked with this rescue group. She heard the story and put it out there in the universe, and everything worked out.
That's perfect.
Yeah, yeah.
So, when you said that you noticed that his legs were broken, which area were they broken? There's not a lot of information in the actual legal case about that.
Yeah,
If
yeah.
you can let me
Yeah,
know what surgery he kind of had. So,
I I I have the records, so I can send you the records from the ER,
mhm,
just for you to kinda dissect a little bit if you'd like.
yeah, that's
Um, I don't have access to the ER records at that point,
right.
but I got the stuff from, MedVet, which is where he was,
Yeah.
and so he, had both of his femoral head and necks, kind of severed, so they were
Oh
just
gosh.
broken right through. Yeah, yeah. I believe he had broken ribs, but I can't remember the specifics of the case, unfortunately, past the yeah, that. So, um, it was evident that something traumatic had happened. I mean, you don't break your femoral head and neck
Yeah.
bilaterally very easily.
There's a lot of blunt force trauma that has to go into that for that particular bone to break.
Yep,
So,
yep. And
um,
so,
yeah.
yeah,
Did he, if you can remember, if not, it's fine. But did he end up having like a total hip procedure or an FHO?
they did an FHO bilaterally.
What an
And
FHO is, for our listeners, is a femoral head ostectomy, which is you take the actual head of the femur off, and it kind of allows it to form its own joint
mhm.
again. So,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
and so he was at MedVet for um, the orthopedic procedure then.
Yep,
Okay.
yep.
All right.
And it's something that I think a lot of primary care veterinarians would be able to do, but bilaterally was a big question. And then because he was so young, we just weren't
Yeah.
super sure. And honestly, I'm not an orthopedics person, so
And neither am I. So
so to me, I was like, I think he just needs to go to the best, the best in the area and figure it out.
that sounds like a good idea. It definitely sounds like a good plan. So after his orthopedic surgery, did you have any part in his rehabilitation?
Um, no, I guess so I would go visit him still and I would like go see him and stuff.
That's perfect.
We were a little worried, with the reperfusion stuff if that was gonna go well. Very luckily it did. He to this day, so I basically just the tape was kind of all around his mouth. So we kind of cleaned up that area. The skin underneath it was dead, but everything else was okay. And so I just put some like mattress sutures in there so there wasn't a whole lot of tension and let the area kind of fill in itself.
Oh, that's good.
Um,
Yeah.
the hair did grow back, which is awesome. But he does have a little discolored line there. So
Yeah.
it's just kind of the body does amazing things for sure.
And I saw in the notes that he did get some laser therapy
Yeah,
and some hydrotherapy, which is amazing. I'm a holistic veterinarian, so
yeah,
I
yeah,
do acupuncture, Reiki, all of that stuff. So
yeah,
rehabilitation is really, it's a great thing. So I'm so glad that you guys, kind of all teamed together and got him into some rehab for that, especially at such a young age.
yeah, yeah.
Speaking of which, did you guys, uh, did you, how did you age him? Was it a dental kind of looking at, or just the size, or?
Yeah, yeah, dentistry was important. He was so young that we could see, which teeth had erupted, so that's always a good thing. Once they get a little older, you're never quite sure, you're kinda going to the closest year.
Right.
But yeah, he was, of an age that matched with his teeth.
Okay. Yeah, in most dogs, their canine teeth, so the big teeth that you see, the big pointy teeth that you see, are usually erupting around 4 to 6 months of age. In these larger breed dogs, maybe a little bit earlier in the smaller breeds, but that's a good estimate on age, about 4 to 5 months. Um, so I'm going to kind of talk to Sherri a little bit about how Chance is now. I've seen some pictures and I'm so excited that he's doing so well. So, what are your kind of personal and professional opinions about the case and about how this came to happen.
Yeah. I think it was, well, I was my first year out of school or second year out of school. So it was a very rough thing to come to terms with.
Yeah,
Abuse cases are never easy, but they're especially hard when you're so young and bright-eyed and bushy-tailed, and to know
right?
that those things happen. I think the thing that always stands out for me knowing a little bit more about abuse is that if a person is doing that to an animal, you'll have to look up the actual factual, but they're much more likely to be doing it to humans as well.
Yep. Yeah, that's
Um,
actually a big part of my podcast is
yeah.
that there is a severe link between domestic abuse and animal abuse. So
Yeah. And so in this case, he had been accused of abuse in other ways, and so
yeah,
it really kind of reinforced for me to watch out for those cases and try to report them when possible.
perfect.
I have had a few other cases where there are some broken ribs and we don't know why, and it's something that definitely sets my like spidey senses off, that I should probably be a little bit more aware. And so for a long time, Chance would our goal was to kind of have Chance be an educational thing where, if you see this or hear about it, if kids, see it happening, to let your teachers know, that sort of thing, so that we can try to reduce it as much as possible.
Right. And speaking from vet to vet, it's not something that we're really taught a lot about in school. And
Right.
we are first line. We're kind of first responders in these cases
Mhm.
where you see the animal abuse first, and then it can escalate, or it already has escalated by the time we see it. So it's really good to know, that we're using this as an educational uh, uh, option or
Right.
opportunity. So.
Right. Exactly.
Um, and then, did you have any other questions for me or comments about anything? And then I'm going to ask you one last question and I'll let you go.
Okay. Um, I don't think so. I think the thing that I wanted to say was it was really nice to have a rescue that was able to step in and help. No questions asked. And so I think the rescue community, does so many great things. This is one of the many times that we've seen it work well. Um, we were lucky that Sherri answered her phone that night.
Yes.
Uh, and so hopefully you'll hear more about him, from her.
Right.
Uh, but I think that's it. No, I think it's good that you're getting the word out there for
Thank
sure.
you. Thanks. Yeah,
Yeah.
and we have a link on our website to we're going to, if we don't have it up already, to Guardians of the Green Mile, so that people can donate. There's a few other charities and rescues on there that I have for people to donate as well.
Yeah.
So that's something. Hopefully, in the future, when I have merchandise, a lot of that proceeds is going to go to the different charities as well.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then last thing, so what's one thing that you would tell people or wish people knew about animal abuse?
I think it was just what we talked about before, just how important it is to look for those signs, and if you see them, report them. I think the more that we report it, the better, when we do see it. Just because otherwise I don't know how else to get help to a person.
Right, right. And I mean, if you are in an instance of domestic abuse and you do bring your animal into the vet, um, slip a note to one of us, slip a note to
Yeah.
the receptionist. Uh,
Oh,
we know, most of us are actually a majority of us are women now. Uh,
yeah. Yeah.
we know what to look for, and even though there are domestic cases and domestic violence against males, which it does happen,
Yeah.
it's a little bit more towards the female, and so we are there for you if you need it.
Yeah. Totally. I think with the way that we do online, exams and like everything through internet and email, um you could guise it as a thing about your pet, and we're definitely there to help you.
Right,
We may not be trained on the human medicine side, but we're definitely able to do everything we can.
right. Well, thank you so much again for what you do and for how you help Chance and all the millions of animals that I know you've helped in your career. And,
Thanks.
we're both not that old, so
Yeah,
millions,
yeah.
but still,
Yeah.
I definitely thank you so much for that. And I'll probably let you go. So,
Okay,
yeah,
sounds great.
great.
And then say hi to Sherry for me. I know
Cool.
she's running a little late, but we've stayed close over the years, so
Good,
it's
perfect.
definitely a good relationship. And then good luck with your podcast.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Yeah, no problem. All right, I'll
Bye.
see you later.
Yeah. Hey, so we are honored to be able to interview today Sherri Christopher. She's the director of the Guardians for the Green Mile, which is a nonprofit organization in Northwest Indiana. And they are the ones that Dr. Sharp talked about that made Chance's surgeries and recoveries possible through their donations. So, Sherri, I will let you kind of introduce yourself here and tell us a little bit about what you do.
Well, I'm Sherri Christopher. I'm the executive director and founder of Guardians of the Green Mile. Um, Honestly, this was one of those adventures that I never thought that I would be a part of. Dog rescue, really. I questioned God a few times, but it's been a journey for almost 10 years now.
Wow.
And 10 amazing years we've rescued thousands of lives. So it's hard to believe it's almost 10 years old. So we're talking tonight about Chance Christmas. Chance is one of those cases that literally went global overnight. His story, thousands of people from all over the world, and I'm telling you, every country reached out to us that night.
That's amazing.
Finding a puppy on Christmas night in that state, it really touched people. It touched people so much. The emergency vet clinic had to call me at like 2 a.m. to say, please post something to stop calling in donations. You're tying up the phone lines.
Wow.
It was crazy. So, so we're going to be celebrating 10 years, a decade of saving lives. And, we look forward to the day that we don't have to do that anymore. Hopefully we can educate people to take better care of their pets and, be more responsible. That would be great.
That would be, yes, definitely. And we have the link. I've mentioned it already, but there is the link on our website to donate to Guardians of the Green Mile to help them, as well as some other charities. And if you have some local charities, please donate to them as well. Every little bit helps in these nonprofits. So tell us a little bit more about that night and what happened and how Chance kind of came into your life.
Well, I'm one of those crazy people that goes to the movies on Christmas, and then always go to the Chinese restaurant. I was eating dinner with my friend, and I got a call from one of the original Guardian members. Her name is Carrie. She worked at the emergency vet with Dr. Sharp, and she said, there's an emergency. There's this little bitty puppy. He needs a guardian, to look out for him, and a guardian pretty much to step up and say, yeah, we'll spend thousands of dollars on a puppy we don't even know. Sure. Right. And she said, before you can even answer, she knew my answer was going to say yes, because I knew that if she was calling me on Christmas night, I knew it was urgent.
Yeah.
So of course I said yes. I said, but what am I saying yes to? Let's talk more. And then she sent me the picture. This little tiny baby, this puppy, I'm sure you've seen the pictures. He had a cone on, and literally his muzzle was so necrotic it looked like it was going to fall off.
Yeah.
And then she told me the horrific things of the hips being broken and his muzzle being taped. And all I said was, what's the realistic outcome? And she said, I really don't know, but Dr. Maggie Sharp said he wagged his tail. And I said, well, if he's got the fight in him, we've got his back. We'll be his guardians. Yeah. So just because Dr. Maggie saw that little bit of waggy tail, and which is amazing, after everything that he had been through in his short little life, not knowing any kindness by his abuser, he knew he was safe for one, and he wagged his tail and said, "Hey, I'm in this for the long haul if you'll save my life."
Perfect.
So, I mean, that's really how it went. And we found out that the kids that found him, well, they were young adults. They just happened to be in the backyard smoking a cigarette, and hobbled in this little puppy. Somewhere in that Grinch's heart, either he left the garage door open on accident or he opened it. But he escaped from his abuser, and then we found him. So nobody knew where he came from at first.
Right.
So
And I
social
mean,
media is pretty powerful. We found out through social media, just posting them, people started ratting him out. That's literally how we found him.
that's a good thing though too, because I mean he did get time for it. I mean, not as much time as anyone would want him to have, but he did get time for it. So we're lucky that people spoke up and knew who he was and knew who Chance was. So that's great. And it's so amazing that everything kind of fit in and you could be that guardian for him. So uh, a little bit, do you remember at all how much Chance's bill was?
Well, shoot, I want to say just the emergency clinic alone was probably 4 or 5 thousand. And then we had to take him to MedVet Chicago, where Dr. Aaron Jackson performed his hip surgery. Um, Again, that was several thousand. And then we had ongoing therapy. He came locally for his hips. They did laser therapy. We did aquatics. I mean, there was so much that went into him. I would probably have to look back 5 years ago and say, okay, what did we spend? I mean, well,
Right.
now it's been almost 7.
Yeah.
7 years.
Right. Well, and I mean, it's so amazing just because, and of course, I'm into the holistic aspect of it too. So I'm so glad that he got rehabilitation through hydrotherapy and laser. And I think that just helps so much more with healing. And the fact that you guys did that for him is just amazing. Um, so I know we talked a little bit about your personal and professional opinions, but do you have any more personal and professional opinions about this case in particular?
Um, I guess both of them. The state of Indiana recognizes animals as property. We have a lot of work to do when it comes to animal abuse. I can tell you the one case we were dealing with in Chicago, I was able to actually give a victim's impact statement on one of the cases that we were fighting against, a dog fighter. I was able to stand there, look him in the face, and read words for the dog, and I was not allowed to do that for Chance.
Right.
Even though we stepped up and we became his guardians, he was not allowed to have a voice in the courtroom.
Yeah.
Our presence was there. You can tell by the purple that I have on. We literally went every single month for a year wearing this color. You couldn't miss us, but we couldn't speak on Chance's behalf. So we as a community have a lot of work to do when it comes to fighting back and making people accountable, all the way to when people move out of their house and pack the car, pack the kids, and leave the animals locked in the house and move.
Yeah.
They should be held accountable. So Richard Cope is a long abuser of things, people, the system. No animal should ever be in his possession, but sadly, we could not get that as part of his sentence, that he could never own another animal. So he does own animals until they get away from him, and then they get picked up by animal control, and but he's allowed to go on with life as though nothing happened. And he is a long time felon, long time.
Yeah, and I did read some of his rap sheet in the podcast, and he definitely has been in the eye of the police force for a very, very long time.
Yeah.
And it's just sad that these people go on with their lives when especially with Chance, I mean, the scars are lasting. He's still having he has a great life now, which I'll let you extrapolate on a little bit, whatever you can, but he's doing well now, and he has a good family and some friends, so we're very happy for him. But he definitely still bears the scars of what happened to him at 4 months of age.
Right. And, in the legal system, the night that it happened, the police department was not really, really interested in the police chief. It was almost like, nah, nothing to worry about. Somebody knew somebody, a senator. And that's exactly how we got, the recognition. We got somebody to back us up, one of the Indiana senators. And it's not on my mind his name, but had we not known a person that knew somebody, I don't think Michigan City would have done anything. I think they were just kind of done with it. And I was happy that the U.S. Marshals came involved in it and actually caught him in El Paso, Texas. He was getting ready to cross the Mexico border when he fled Indiana. He went on a little excursion, Ohio, and then he went somewhere else, Texas. But yeah, he was actually extradited back to Indiana.
Wow.
A lot of it was because of this case and because of threatening somebody and leaving a voicemail about killing somebody.
Right.
So,
and yeah, we know now we're figuring it out more, the link between domestic violence and the link between that and animal abuse. And because of that, it seems like the FBI has started actually tracking animal abuse cases as a separate offense rather than just lumping it in under things. So hopefully in the next few years here, we'll have some more data to back that up, but it is in its infancy. So.
Well, said to bring up domestic violence, I used to work with Avon and the Avon Foundation. They have a domestic violence and they had breast cancer, but 99% of all domestic violence in a home involves an animal. Yep. And sadly, that's why women are stuck with the abuser, because they know they have nowhere to go with their animals. So they don't leave because they're in fear. So as a domestic violence service, we really need places that offer that safe place for animals so that they can flee their abuser. Just like at the call in the middle of the night, you answer the phone, you meet them, you grab the animals. And that is in our radar. When we get property, we want to have an area that's dedicated just to the domestic violence shelter. So when we get that call, we can help them flee their abuser.
That's amazing. That's really great. And it definitely is a need. And I've seen a few companies kind of starting towards that path, but it definitely needs to go a lot faster. And domestic violence, of course, is on the rise, especially with COVID. We're seeing more and more of it. So people being trapped in their houses and things with their abusers. So
yes, absolutely.
So and then kind of the last question, what's one thing that you would tell people or you wish people knew about animal abuse?
Well, for one, let's say in Richard Cope's case, all of the things that he did to this small, tiny puppy, this defenseless animal, he did it in front of his 5-year-old son. So what is the likelihood that his little boy learned this behavior?
Right.
Animal abuse, sometimes you can mend the animal's heart and mind, and sometimes the abuse is so deep that they're not fixable. No matter how much love you give them, sometimes the battle scars are way too deep and they become fearful and aggressive because they're afraid.
Right.
But it is the culture of what he's going to pass it on to his child. So what they see you do as a grown-up, kids will follow. And as we know, animal abuse is usually like the practice to other crimes.
Yep.
And I guess I believe, like, if we can catch the abuser of animals, you kind of cut the head of the snake off. If you catch them before they progress to human, you cut the head of the snake, but we need laws that are going to be in place that will hold them accountable.
Yeah,
Not just slap them on the wrist and put them back into society. We can't have that. So
right. Well, thank you so much for talking with me. I know you had a lot of things to get done tonight. And I will make sure that we have a link on our website to Guardians of the Green Mile so that anyone can donate if they need to. And I thank you so much, and I hope you have a good Christmas, and I'm glad that Chance is having a good Christmas. So
he is having a good Christmas. I promise you of that. I can't give the details where he's at, but he's got a wonderful mom and dad. He has a human sibling that's only about 3 months older than he is.
Perfect.
And they are definitely besties. But yes, any little donation, as little as $2, $5. We spend about $100,000 a year in our vet bill. So by the grace of God, we've always been able to replenish that. And if we can't rescue, and save lives. So Merry Christmas to you and to everyone. And God bless you.
God bless you too. Thank you so much.
Thanks, honey. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.